Do you remember this sound? For millions of us, that iconic tune was the soundtrack to our lives. It meant a text from a friend, a call from family, the sound of connection itself. And the company behind it? Nokia, a name that was once synonymous with the word phone. But how did a company that started over 150 years ago in the paper industry become the undisputed king of mobile phones, only to seemingly vanish from the top spot overnight? This is the incredible rollercoaster story of Nokia. Our story begins not with circuits and screens, but with pulp and paper. In 1865, Frederick Idestam established a wood pulp mill in southern Finland. The company took its name from the Nokian River, a source of power for its factories. For nearly a century, Nokia was a major industrial conglomerate, making everything from rubber boots and car tires to cables. They were a cornerstone of the Finnish economy, but their biggest revolution was yet to come. The shift started in the 1960s when Nokia established its electronics division. It was a small, experimental part of the company, but it was filled with ambitious engineers who saw the future. They began dabbling in telecommunications, and in 1982, they introduced their first car phone, the Mobira Senator. This thing was a beast, weighing a hefty 22 pounds. It wasn't exactly pocket-friendly, but it was a start. A few years later came the Mobira Cityman, famously nicknamed the Gorba after Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev was photographed using one. At a much lighter 1.7 pounds, it was a sign of things to come. The era of the mobile phone was dawning, and Nokia was right at the forefront. But the 1990s were the real game changer. Facing an economic crisis in Finland, Nokia's leadership made a bold do-or-die decision. They decided to sell off their other businesses, the rubber, the cables, everything, and focus solely on one thing, telecommunications. It was a massive gamble. The CEO at the time, Jorma Ollila, saw the potential for a global mobile phone market, a world where everyone, not just business executives, would have a phone in their pocket. And he was right. What made Nokia so dominant? 3 key things: design, durability, and usability. Remember the Nokia 3310? That phone was legendary. It was practically indestructible. You could drop it, step on it, and it would just keep working. It had customizable faceplates, so you could personalize your phone. It had that incredibly addictive game, Snake. And the battery life? It felt like it lasted forever. Nokia understood that a phone wasn't just a tool. It was a personal item, a fashion statement. They released a huge variety of models to suit every taste and budget. The banana-shaped 8110, made famous by the movie The Matrix. The sleek and professional 6000 series. The wildly popular and affordable 1100, which went on to become the best-selling mobile phone of all time, with over 250 million units sold. Their user interface was brilliantly simple. You didn't need a manual. The menus were intuitive, the buttons were satisfying to press, and everything just worked. By the mid-2000s, Nokia was on top of the world. At their peak, they had over 40% of the global mobile phone market share. 1 out of every 2 smartphones sold was a Nokia. They weren't just a company, they were a cultural phenomenon. They connected people, defined an era, and seemed utterly unbeatable. It felt like their reign would last forever, but in the world of technology, forever is a very short time. A storm was brewing in Cupertino, California, that would change everything. The year is 2007. Steve Jobs walks onto a stage and introduces the world to the iPhone. It was a device unlike any other. A giant touchscreen, a full web browser, an iPod, and a phone all in one. Initially, Nokia executives weren't worried. They dismissed it. One infamously said, "It's a niche product." They believed their hardware superiority, brand loyalty, and global distribution network would protect them. They had their own operating system, Symbian, which was powerful, but was also becoming clunky and outdated compared to the slick new iOS. Nokia saw the threat, but they reacted too slowly and too disjointedly. Internally, the company was struggling. Different departments competed against each other instead of collaborating. They had dozens of projects running, trying to create their own iPhone killer, but none of them hit the mark. They underestimated the power of the app ecosystem that Apple was building. People weren't just buying a phone anymore. They were buying into a world of applications, games, and services available through the App Store. Then, another challenger appeared, Google's Android. It was an open-source platform that other manufacturers could adopt for free. Samsung, HTC, and others jumped on board, creating a wave of affordable, powerful smartphones that directly competed with Nokia. Suddenly, Nokia was caught in a pincer movement. On the high end, they were losing to Apple's premium experience. On the low and mid-range, they were being swamped by a flood of Android devices. Their market share began to plummet. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, Nokia made another massive gamble. In 2011, they announced a strategic partnership with Microsoft, abandoning their own Symbian and MeeGo operating systems to exclusively use Windows Phone. The idea was to create a third ecosystem to compete with iOS and Android. The resulting Lumia phones were beautifully designed, with great cameras and a unique tile-based interface. Many reviewers loved the hardware, but the problem remained the same: the app gap. Developers were focused on creating apps for the massive user bases of iOS and Android, not the much smaller Windows Phone market. Without the popular apps like Instagram and Snapchat, consumers were reluctant to switch. Despite pouring billions into the partnership, they couldn't gain traction. It was a classic case of too little, too late. The ship was sinking, and this final bet hadn't paid off. In 2013, the unthinkable happened. Nokia announced it would be selling its entire devices and services division to Microsoft. The king had fallen. The Finnish giant that had once dominated the world of mobile phones was exiting the business entirely. It was a shocking and sad end to an incredible chapter in tech history. For Finland, it was a national tragedy, like losing a part of their identity. So, is that the end of the story? Not quite. While Microsoft's acquisition didn't pan out and they eventually wrote off the deal, the Nokia brand lived on. The part of Nokia that wasn't sold, the telecommunications network equipment business, is still a global leader today, building the 5G infrastructure that our current smartphones rely on. They are the quiet power behind the scenes. And what about the phones? In 2016, a new Finnish company called HMD Global, staffed by many former Nokia veterans, licensed the Nokia brand name. They began producing new Nokia-branded smartphones running on, ironically, Android. These new phones have been praised for their clean software, durable build quality, and nostalgic appeal, bringing back classic models like the 3310 and the Banana phone for a new generation. The story of Nokia is a powerful lesson. It's a tale of innovation, of taking huge risks that paid off spectacularly. But it's also a cautionary tale about the dangers of complacency, of failing to adapt quickly enough in a fast-changing world. They reached the highest peak imaginable and then experienced a fall faster and more dramatic than anyone could have predicted. Yet through it all, the spirit of Nokia endures, in the networks that connect us and in the name that still evokes a sense of quality, durability, and a time when our digital lives felt just a little bit simpler. What are your favorite memories of Nokia? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to read them. If you enjoyed this journey through tech history, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.